Browns and Jaguars, and because of the events that are going on in the AFC, even with a 2-game losing streak, the Browns, if they win this game, in my opinion, Tony, I'll lead off here, are actually in a really good position. Tony Camino, I'm Andy Billman. Very good position to actually make the playoffs because the Steelers have fallen back, and with the Steelers having a very torturous last 4 games. They played 3 out of the 4 on the road to end the season. This has really opened up where it's like, even with the bad West Coast swing, I've said this, I'm going to punctuate it. If you win this week, Browns, I actually see how you're making the playoffs easy. If you don't, it's not over, but it's a mad scramble to the finish.
Yeah, if you win, it's kind of crazy the way the schedules finish out. If you win this week, there is still that hope of a division title. The Ravens' schedule is not easy to end the year.
Yep.
However, like you said, if you lose, I don't think that means panic time, but what it does mean is those games against the Bengals, Jets, and Bears that we've been circling as wins for so long, they need to actually be wins. There's no room to lose any of those games. And in the NFL, that's hard to do. I know they're supposed to be wins, but we see things happen all the time. So it's a really big one to just give yourself some insurance and keep yourself alive in the division race.
We'll start off with the quarterback. It's been the biggest discussion all week. I think we're both in agreement about Flacco starting. And again, I want to punctuate this. I think DTR is going to be a good quarterback. This is just not the time. You would have to really develop him back. And what I mean by that is big games in December are tough. And he's coming off an injury, a concussion. It's hard. This is just not the time. It's not fair to him. You need someone actually like Flacco, and it brings a leadership question in the locker room. What I've heard in the past from past players, in games like this, to go back and forth with quarterbacks and goofy enough, but to go with a veteran who you know's won, then not go with him here, Tony, I think would be bizarre. So I think it's a Flacco. We're all assuming Flacco. I'll let you tee it up from there. It should be Flacco, in my opinion, on Sunday.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a weird situation because the non-emotion part of it, thinking of the long-term effects of this organization, the right move would probably be DTR because Flacco is not going to be here next year. DTR, this is his best chance to get those game reps. However, this is a franchise, clearly we all know, that has been starved of winning. We need to build that winning culture. So while Flacco's probably not going to be around next year, just to get that playoff appearance is a huge step in the right direction for what hopefully can be a really special 2024. So if you just think logistically, it might make more sense to just go with DTR. I think they're pretty even in what they can bring, but
Right.
Flacco does give us the best chance to win right now. And while that probably doesn't mean we're going to find ourselves in the Super Bowl, this is just a franchise that needs to get back to winning and build some sort of a winning culture. And so, yeah, I would Flacco with a little bit of a sprinkle of DTR just to use his athletic ability.
Yep. The only reason why I push back on it even more is Watson's our quarterback next year.
Right.
So DTR's not playing next year anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So to throw him in there now, it's like, I get it. And Tony's right. Everything Tony's saying is right. It's just the winning culture's not been here.
Right.
And I put a lot more emphasis on winning culture. Time for the Browns to start winning. It is. It's time for the Browns to start winning. They have too much good opportunity here. Okay. The Browns, in my little life, have never beaten Jacksonville, it feels like at times. They are 6-12 against the Jaguars. It has been a thorn since the day we moved. The day we moved, for people who forget, Jacksonville was an expansion team, and the Browns lost to them twice. And then we went away. And it feels like ever since then, Tony, this Jacksonville team, no matter who's the coach, no matter who's the quarterback, has been a thorn. And the Browns typically don't do well in these situations. Trevor Lawrence looks like he is going to play. This is a dangerous game for the Browns, in my opinion. Though it's a live dog. What I mean by that is the Browns are the favorite. Jacksonville's 5-0 on the road. They don't care where this is one of the rare teams in the NFL. They don't care where they play. They don't. I mean, and in fact, they've been that way for a while. Peterson's an experienced coach. It makes this game very unnerving for me, at least. I don't have a feel for this game. Don't have a feel for this game. Right?
It's a weird one because while we all think it's going to be Trevor Lawrence versus Joe Flacco, you got two coaches that are just playing mind games with each other.
Yes,
so
they are.
It could very well be DTR versus CJ Beathard come Sunday. I don't think it will be, but it could. The last game I can remember us playing against Jacksonville, I remember that home game pretty recently. I think that was the year Jacksonville made a deep run.
Yep.
We actually beat them at home in December, which was a weird outcome. So I don't know why we're always playing them in Cleveland in December. Hopefully that can play well. Hopefully the weather can help us like it's done in the past, help us against this Florida team. But Jacksonville's a good team. Trevor Lawrence might be beat up a little bit, but he's a tough guy, talented quarterback.
Yep.
They're going to have to just get back to the way they were playing football before with dominating defensively. Lawrence is going to keep him around. Even if he's on one leg, he'll keep him around. He'll make enough plays to keep him in the game, but the defense has to be the disruptor in this one.
So Darius Smith came out and spoke about it. Jim Schwartz spoke about it. The pressure on the quarterback has not been there, and it hasn't. It's been 2 weeks of dormant. You kind of reference this. I'll let you tee it up. This is a big game for Jimmy Schwartz. Huge game.
Yeah. So we looked at these last 2 weeks, and while I like to, in football, you can't ever blame everything on one guy. Denzel Ward being out hurt a lot, so potentially getting him back would be huge. Myles Garrett being banged up hurts them a lot as well. However, the scheme these last couple of weeks, they've been getting outcoached on that side of the ball where the defense just wasn't in good opportunities. Coaches were seeing things on film that they could do against the Browns that they just weren't going to have an answer for right away. And you've got another coach who's really familiar with the philosophy of Jim Schwartz's defense. They worked hand in hand together. So it'll be interesting to see if they continue to exploit the defensive line. With the good news is we probably won't see a lot of read options, which have been killing us because of Lawrence's injury, but probably still the play action boots, probably still some jet sweeps, a lot of motion, I would guess. And the Browns just have to adjust and do better against those things because that's been the few things that have killed them all year.
They have to do a better job, as Tony said, against these sweeps to the outside. It's an old school 80s play that I grew up with that has reappeared for the Browns. It's been an Achilles heel. It's just not been good. The Browns defensively, too, have to get pressure on Lawrence. I think Lawrence is playing. So you got to get pressure on a guy who's banged up. Put him down on the ground. Let's put pressure on him, and let's see him try to make plays with his legs, which he loves to do, which is kind of his go-to. His arm can be weirdly accurate and weirdly inaccurate. He goes through periods where I saw him in Clemson a lot. I've seen him in the NFL. He can have days where he's off. And he can have days where he's laser. He's very unpredictable with his arm. I would love for the Browns to play some more run in this game, Tony. This is a wet, windy game. I think a key thing in this game, which is great on one sense, Jacksonville's not known for running the ball outside of what Lawrence does with his legs. They're not a team that's like cowbell running back. This is not the Rams and the Broncos. They're playing a team that's not as emphasis on the run like these two other teams were the last 2 weeks. I think that will help the defense here. Browns, I believe, even with Flacco, need to be able to use the running game. And with Flacco, if he starts, it'll help is his arm strength. Wet and windy weather should help the Browns here if they can play their advantages.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that, but it's not like the common claim from a lot of the people in the fan base is just they need to run the ball more. And all the numbers will tell you they run the ball more than they probably should. It's not a question of run the ball more. It's how can we run the ball better, more consistently. We don't just need to increase the sheer volume of run plays we have. They have to just run the ball better when they're running it because all the other metrics about how much you run the ball, how much you're expected to run the ball, the Browns run the ball about way more over expected times than a lot of teams in the NFL, meaning they run it in situations that you would not expect them to run it in. And I think the running part is fair. We do need to, but we just need to run better. I don't think we need to run more because, and maybe I think Sunday they do need to run more because of the conditions, but they need to just run better, run with more success. And it's hard without Nick Chubb, but the running game has been incredibly inconsistent all year. We've seen last week.
Yeah, you're right.
We'll have a carry of 8 yards, and then we'll have a carry of -6.
You're right. I'm just saying pure numbers-wise, they passed a lot more these last two games. It's been very pass-heavy these last two games.
They've been playing from behind a lot.
Well, all true. Fair point. 50-50 would be nice in this game. Even if it's more like 6. I mean, it's been – last game, I don't have the stat in front of me. I think it's like 40 pass. I know it's like 40-20. That's a big disparity. Browns need to be more in that like 5 to 10 range. Even if you pass 10 more times, that's fine. 20 is a big jump for the Browns. And typically, I can show you the stats as I marked it one year. When they do that, the Browns usually lose.
Yeah.
When they pass the ball more than 10 to 15 times a game, they typically lose. The last 2 weeks they have. So that stat, what I'm saying is you don't have to run more than you pass. I'm just saying, actually, the last 2 weeks they haven't ran enough. You got to get some more running plays. Tony's right. You have to run successfully. And there's been some strangeness. Ford had a quiet week. Pierre Strong had 2 big runs, but he didn't get the ball more than twice. It's weird. Tony's right. They got to get more success. And, of course, no Nick Chubb sucks.
Yeah.
Sucks. This would be a great Nick Chubb game in this game.
Right. Yeah, I just think that we're going to see defenses are really going to key in on taking the run away when they're playing Joe Flacco. And I think that the passing game, more times than not, the answers have been there. And while they just need to continue to execute those, I think Flacco did a great job, if nothing else, kind of like with the Cavs where you need shooters to just get the defense to react.
Right, okay.
Flacco was throwing those deep balls, which he threw a ton of them. At least it's going to get those safeties to react a little bit.
Right.
They need to run the ball with success on Sunday, and hopefully they run it with success, and that leads to them running it more. So hopefully this is a non-topic, and they end up running it more because they ran it well. But if they continue to run the ball as poorly as they have the last 2 weeks, I don't think we're going to see them run it that much more.
And to be fair to Tony, the Steelers game they won. They didn't run the ball well either. They won. They couldn't get a yard at times against the Steelers, against that defense. So Tony's right. The running back, not only does it have to be more, it has to be more successful. Last thought in this game, and it sucks to say something like this, the Browns have to win. Of course, we want them to win. Staying healthy. Browns are, it's good to see that maybe Cooper's playing. I think we all assumed Ward's back, but still it's questionable right now. DeJuan Jones appeared on the injury list yesterday, which that was surprising. Browns have to start getting healthier. They need to get players back, Tony. I think that's my other note in this game, and I hate saying that in football. That's not the way you play the game. You play the game to win, and you figure out the next man up. The Browns they can't lose players. I'm starting to see in positions where they're really getting depleted, wide receiver being one of them. Can't keep losing players like this.
No, you can't. I think once Deshaun went down, that was it. You cannot have any more significant long-term injuries after that because most teams, when they lose their top offensive weapon, their quarterback they're paying $200+ million to, and they're all pro right tackle, for most teams, that's it. So the fact that they've been able to overcome that is great, but if they lose anybody else for any sort of significant period of time, I just don't see how they can overcome it. They need the defense at full strength playing at that near historic level to win games, and they need the offense to drag themselves along with it, and they cannot do that without Amari Cooper, without DeJuan Jones, without Jed Wills. Garon Christian's been solid, but just missing linemen in general. You're not going to do that when you continue to lose big playmakers.
Throw in no Nick Chubb, and there's a lot of things here for the Browns they're going up against. It's a key note. The Browns have to try to figure out how to stay healthy in these games. And I'll just leave it there. It's really, really key for the Browns right now. Which again, there's no like, hey, here's what you don't do to play without injuries. Like, I'm saying something that's very odds. That's not how football's played. I'm just saying it's a note. The Browns can't. I have to say it again. The Browns can't keep losing players like this. At some point, it's just going to really tumble over. So we both agree. Huge game. You'll see our pregame show on Sunday morning. And the nice thing about this game, Tony, is Browns win. The Bears game, you don't want to underplay an opponent, but gosh, they should win that game. And then you really you can see how the horses are going to roll down the stretch. A loss is a big gripping game against the Bears and Texans back-to-back weeks. I might even say you might need to win both. So this game has a lot of juice to it, and it's weird because it's Jacksonville. And I'll say this again, the Browns never beat Jacksonville, 6-12. Got to win this game, Tony.
Yeah.
Got to figure out a way to get this game in win column.
Can make life real easy down the stretch. You can kind of exhale a little bit. You lose this one, this is kind of how you look at it. The more games you lose now, the quicker the playoffs are going to start because you lose this one, and then you lose one more after that, you probably have zero wiggle room. So you got to just take care of business.
The nice thing, and we'll end on this note, the nice thing is the Browns have gotten gifts. The Steelers are falling apart. The Broncos lost last week. There are teams around. The Colts, I don't know if they're really set for a playoff run. The Bills have been a bit of a mess all year. So the Browns are not against teams where it's like, I see in this group of gaggle teams like, someone's hot. I can't say that. So that helps. The only team to me is the Texans. The Texans with that quarterback and Stroud can really play well, but that's a young quarterback. So it's even hard to read them. So That's a nice thing here. In past years, you can always see a hot team that has not come up yet in this gaggle of wildcard teams. You can't really get a feel for it. So it allows the Browns a chance to really take control of this. I really do. I think if they win, they can really take control of the wild card and really push some people around. At Official Cleveland Sports, BelieveInTheLand.com. Tony and I will be counting running plays, and we'll be debating about how many run plays we should do throughout the game. If you're going to the game, very wet and windy, so bring proper materials. It's supposed to be a very, very wet and wild game. Tony the Iron Man, Billman here. We will see you 9 a.m. Sunday.